Well, hello, everybody. Happy ho ho. Yes, you heard me. I said happy ho ho. We're not at Christmas yet, but we're coming to Christmas awfully soon. And today's guest on Act 3 is the wonderful Rita Innamorati. We're going to be talking about the Angel Network, among other things. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Kathy Holmes. I'm your host. Welcome to the program, Rita. How are you?
Great. Thank you for having me as always, Kathy. It's a
This
treat.
is my favorite time of the year to have you on the show because you are doing, I mean, the stuff that you do for people and your team. My heart couldn't be fuller if it wanted to be. I just love, 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 love. But for those who don't know exactly what the Angel Network is, how about you share the beginning to the end and then let's fill in all the details as we go along.
Okay, so you are correct in calling it the Angel Network because the Angel Network actually runs year round. So this particular time of year, it's Christmas Angels. And the Christmas Angel program we started back in 2008, helping out a couple of families that just happened to cross our path through the Big Brothers Big Sisters Association back then.
Yeah.
And last year we were able to help 1,500 plus individuals.
Holy mackerel.
Right, positively affecting over 450 households. So that was great. Yeah, we just love it. We reach out to the community. We have such an assortment of angels who support, adopt a family, a youth, a senior, and help make their Christmas just a little bit brighter. So, our families, individuals, anyone who comes to the Angel Network, to Volunteer Nanaimo Christmas Angels, are vetted. They're vetted through the agencies we work with year round. So there's a number of different agencies. We also work with some of the schools. This year, probably more schools than usual. And so they vet the families for us, let us know that they are in need. And it's not just about low income. Sometimes it's trauma based. We accept trauma based families. You don't have to just be low income, but that has always seemed to be the bar. But around, I guess, about 2015, something was brought to my attention about youth. So we started working with vulnerable youth. So young people in group homes, or transitioning out of a group home, out of foster care. The ministry does help those young people with higher education as long as they continue in school. So they help them out with a little place to stay and help with their education funding. And so we took that on. And this last year, I think last year, we had over 100 that we helped. And it was such a hard sell in the beginning. I have to tell you, Kathy, trying to get people to adopt teens was like, wow,
Surprise.
teenagers, nobody wants to shop for teenagers. It's like the worst, but
And
their
yet I'm
need.
surprised about that, Rita, because I would have thought teenagers would have been like at the top of the list because they're at that in-between stage, right? Where they're so interesting and so fantastically diverse and all of that as teen. They're trying to figure out who they are. I would have thought that you would have had more families that wanted to adopt those people.
Well, you and I have both raised kids through
True,
teenage years.
true.
And obviously, your recollection of teenagers is a lot different than mine.
Well, I didn't say anything about the brooding and all of that other stuff that goes on
So,
as a teenager.
trying to
This is
figure
very
out
true.
what
This is
makes
a good point.
what makes a teenager happy is like,
Yes,
yeah,
yes, yes, yes,
I mean,
yes.
sometimes you just feel like you're pedaling, 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 but the bike is stationary. You're just
Yes,
not going
you're
anywhere, no
absolutely
matter how
right.
hard
Oh
you
my
try.
gosh, I'm obviously aging myself because I've been a grandparent now for a while, but I think I forgot. Although it will be back around the bend, I'm sure, any time now, the way that time is going so quickly.
Well, I hate to bring this to you, but my grandchildren are hitting teens this coming year.
Oh
This
my,
next month,
oh
I'm going to
my.
have a teenager grandson. So I totally wish my daughter the same joy and luck that I had with them.
I'm going to divert just
That's a
for
nice
a
thing
half
to
a
say
second for
before
this.
Christmas or not.
Is it just for half a second? My mother, a lot of my listeners know that my mom passed away in 2002, right? So, the reason why I'm bringing this up because, and then this is a little bit being voyeuristic in my life. I don't know why I'm bringing it up. I just feel the need to. And it was when my son Dakota was born. I was on deck, right? Legs spread eagle, pumping out my kid. He comes out. My husband at the time, picks him up and puts him up in the air and calls him Shaka, King of the Zulus, places him back on my chest. And of course, I phoned my mother right away. And my mother says to me, "Good show. Congratulations. Good show. Revenge is mine." And it's stayed ever since. So to me, when I think about the teenagers, I still think about my mother going revenge part because it's true. It all comes back to you.
It it does.
It
And
does. It
I
does.
yeah, I
Why I
mean,
shared that story. I just felt like I needed to for some odd reason. So if there's any parents out there that are struggling, we've been there. We
oh, we
did.
have been there. And honestly, I was really, really blessed with my three as teenagers. First of all, I had girls, which are I believe to be so much easier than boys. I know lots of parents think the opposite, but I was very, very happy raising three girls. I would have loved to have a son. It didn't happen. But yeah, I think of that. But when we were trying to push teenagers on the Christmas Angels, it was like, I have teenagers. They're impossible to buy for.
Yes.
And,
Yeah.
they just didn't get that for these teenagers, a Christmas wish list included basics. And when I say basics, I
Yeah.
mean, toothpaste, maybe a new pillow because, for their bed or blankets or whatever. Over the years, now this is like the 10th year, I guess we've had youth. The wish lists have gotten better, but it's really through encouragement that they are actually sharing interests. So, for instance, we had a young man, not naming names obviously because it's all anonymous, but
Of
we had
course.
a
Of
young man
course.
who was interested in learning to sew, and his Christmas angel bought him a brand new sewing machine.
I think it's
So
incredible.
I think, first of all,
Incredible.
yay. I did go on out to my angels, of which I have many, many, many hundreds. I said, has anybody got a used sewing machine they're getting rid of? I needed a few because there were a few
Yeah.
people that had asked for a sewing machine. And, a good used sewing machine, at least for starters, for mums that are wanting to mend to help save money or,
Of course.
do some sewing, sew doll clothes for their little girls, whatever. And to have this angel come in and say, "Oh, yeah," she says, yeah. I says, "Can you imagine?" She says, "A boy asking for a sewing machine. I think this is great." And so she bought him a new sewing machine. And then actually, another angel dropped one off at the off, a brand new sewing machine. Another angel
Wow.
dropped a very gently used sewing machine. So everyone who asked for sewing machines in our group this year so far are doing very, very well.
That's
It's great.
incredible.
And to see that support for young people when that is our future. And if we're putting them down and they are constantly being suppressed or negated or told they're not enough or they're not good enough for better things, that is what we're putting out into our future. We need to support our youth.
Agreed.
Now, fortunately, this year, I think I only have one or two that haven't been supported, and I'm sure that's going to be taken care of in the next couple of days. I actually had like 4 new angels this weekend. Taking small families, but we do have a few large families left. But we also have so many, we've received a lot of donations. So, really the only thing you have to buy is that one special gift. All the necessities, the blankets, the toiletries, the backup little gifts that aren't the gift, they're all taken care of. So, we'll be really good. And people, it just keeps coming in. We are just so blessed. I honestly, if I keep talking about it, I'll just get all teary
Well, and
because
that's okay
I
because
mean, it's
tears
just
on
the
my
most
shoe are
amazing
good. Nothing
community.
wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. Listen, I think that it's important too that we recognize the difference between the family, like the families that support those that have requests and the families that are the recipients of such. So the recipients are all vetted through agencies within the community. I can't call you up and just say, "Hey, Rita, I need, something for a family," unless they belong to an agency. Is that right?
That's correct.
And then but the angels, they come from far and wide. They can
They
be.
sure do.
So let's talk a little bit about the angels themselves and how you've attracted angels to come to you.
Well, a lot of it is the angels that we've already had. I mean, this program's been running for a while, so they share the information. We do have quite a number of angels that come to us through offices, like through businesses. So we have
Yes,
those business
yes.
angels. And
Mhm.
of course, when they're sharing the information, everyone in the office shares the information with their family, with their friends. It gets out there. We do obviously have a presence on, Facebook,
Social
and
media for sure. Yeah,
there's a
yeah.
mention of it on our website. um, I think people are they're drawn to it for a couple of reasons. One of the reasons is because what they're donating, first of all, they know the family's vetted. So they know
Yes,
it's actually a family in need.
yes,
The
yes,
second reason I think is because it's actually going to someone. Like they actually have like a not necessarily a name, but they actually have a family or they have a youth and they know that that's where it's going. And we're so grateful for the angels that because not everyone can afford to take on even one person. I
yes.
mean,
That's
you
true.
know, uh, but I have so many angels that are even pensioners that will want to take on another pensioner or want to take on a youth. Even I've actually had some seniors that have taken on youth because it sort of brings them back to when they're now 50-year-old children were
Exactly.
that age. Even their grandchildren are beyond that. They just want a chance to sort of maybe relive that time when maybe in their lives they couldn't do as much. But now they can give back because, they did such an amazing job raising their kids and helping with grandkids that everybody's in a really good place and maybe just doesn't need that little extra bit of support. And to be able to support someone that maybe reminded them of a time when that was the situation. I mean, you and I both know that that's why I'm here. That's why you're here.
Totally.
And it's because of, our
Paying it
history and
forward.
our past. And
Yep.
it's just like, the I know what that feeling is, and I want to help as many, especially young people, especially, you know, buying for littles is great. I get lots of requests. Oh, we'd like a family with little children. And that's great. Thank you so much because every family needs to be taken care of.
Yeah.
But kids that are 14, 16, 18, believe it or not, are still kids and they still have kid feelings and they still have kid hearts and
Yes,
they still maybe more than a little one that you can buy one doll for and they're excited because all they're really interested in is the wrapping paper in the box.
of course.
You've got a 13, 14, 15-year old who feel like they're not enough, to feel like they don't matter because and I hear this too even from people that I talk to. It's like, oh, it's so important for the little ones, the older ones will understand. No,
Oh, they don't.
I was the oldest
I
one
was
of
the oldest
four,
one.
and
I
I'm
know.
telling
No,
you,
we
I
don't.
sucked it up, but I didn't understand
No.
why I wasn't as important or wasn't as special or wasn't as
Yeah.
anything. Like I mean, you suck it up and you just do it because that's what you have to do because that's how we're raised.
It
And
never truly
so,
goes
no,
away.
it's not. I think it's just as important for an
Very much
18
so.
year old
Yeah.
to get whatever it is, you know, a sewing machine, whatever it is. I mean, that is a bit, you know what? That's a huge, and I don't want anybody to be under the impression that that's what we expect. It's just
No, of course not.
occasionally, again, there we are with angels that have had this kind of a past or that are in a position where they can do it and change this person's life. Like, wouldn't it be great to find this young teen in 20 years, his designs are going to be on some fashion week in New York and you can say, I bought his first sewing machine. Like
You know
I
what,
was there.
Bill? You know what,
They'd
Bill?
never know because they don't know who the kid is. But I'm just saying that when he comes on and starts talking about his history and says, a stranger gave me a sewing machine and that's how I started, somebody in Nanaimo is going to be saying, what?
But even if they don't recognize themselves in others, there's a paying it forward that is so unbelievably beautiful. I am not the person that I am today. You're not the person that you are today without what we experienced as young people. And for myself, if it wasn't for the Salvation Army, if it wasn't for the CKNW Orphans Fund, if it wasn't for angels like the Christmas angels that we do here, or you do here, not we, you do, you are the brains behind all of this incredible incredible gifting that's done in this community. Like I don't know where I would be if it wasn't for the kindness of others. So I know as an adult in my 60s now, trust me, when you are looking back on your life and you remember those people that gave you a hand up, it is a beautiful experience for most of us. For most of us. I love everything about this and the whys and the wherefores. And I'm sad at the same time, Rita, and I know you are too, that there's so many people that need help
Well, not only that need help, but that we can't help.
that
I
we
mean,
can't
just
help. Yeah,
I mean, even if you look at the number like 1,000, you think 1,000, 1,000 is a drop in the bucket for people that need help. The other thing you have to deal with is the fact that not everyone is what's the word, like visual, or not everyone is seen. There
that's
are
true.
so many families in this community. I know there are. I mean, I don't know them
Visible.
personally
Yes,
necessarily, but there are families
yes,
that will do everything in their power not to let anyone know that they are in need. They're
absolutely.
either proud or and there's nothing wrong. Please understand, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with being prideful. There's nothing wrong with saying we don't need help. um, we've we have families that we've reached out to that have just said, you know what, I think there's families worse off than us. And
Exactly.
wow, that's the family I really want to help, because if someone's identified this family and thought that they needed help and they think they're going to manage okay, and they can, and we can help someone else more, that's again, that's like re-gifting Christmas to me. That's just saying, well,
Agreed.
wait a minute, but so you couldn't use like some extra groceries, or you couldn't use some little items for the kids. And well, we could, but I'll bet there's families worse off than us. Well, of course there's families worse off than everybody. I mean, you don't have to go very far to find out, find that there are. But we're just really trying, and it's not even just about the gifts, and it's not just about the food. A lot of it, and I know this is a huge thing for you, Kathy, in your other world of where you live and work,
Yeah.
uh, the stress,
Yes.
the mental health issues that abound at
Yeah.
this time of year.
Yeah.
And for parents, single parents, two parent families, whatever, for those people to alleviate just this one stressor, because there's lots of stresses. There's keeping the lights on, keeping the heat on, making sure your kids are dressed warmly enough in the cold weather without having the pressure that your children are like they're facing, right? Because you go back to school and it's like, whoa, I got an electric scooter. Whoa, I got a PS, whatever the latest, I don't even know what the latest one
I
is, but
hear you.
pick
I'm with you
something.
there.
PS 27, I
Yeah.
don't know. Like
Yeah.
it seems like every year there's something.
Yeah. No,
Xbox 953.
yeah.
Um, and then your kid goes back and he's like, I got an orange. I mean, it's not a rock of coal, but I mean, it's an orange. So I guess
No,
that's
hey,
better.
listen, I was that kid, so I get it. I know exactly what
So
that's
was
like.
I. And I tell it,
And
it's
I think that what people need to recognize is, and especially these days right now, because poverty looks different than it did a decade or 2 decades ago. It looks different than it did even last year or the year before during COVID. Things are changing so much in families. The cost of living now is gotten to be so much higher than what I mean. $7 for a dozen eggs to me is just insane. To put a loaf of bread, at $5 or $6 or $7 for a loaf of bread. So families, especially a lot of families that are at minimum wage, a lot of families that are working families, but they just at the edge, right? One paycheck away from being unhoused, or one paycheck away from losing their lighting or their heat or whatever it is. I think that people need to recognize that the environment has changed so very much, and it is more expensive to do things now. And you're right, alleviating one thing taking that one thing from the stress of a family is so very important. But I think more for the self-esteem as well of the young people, the self-esteem of the teenager that has not ever been able to go out for lunch with his friends because he doesn't go out with them or she doesn't go out with them because they don't have enough money to buy their own lunch, and their friends are constantly buying lunch for them and they want to give back. Like things like there are things that we don't think of in the business of living as a younger person, that and how the lack of funds, how the lack of financial support can play out in real time for people that are living at the poverty line or below the poverty line. So, that's why, when you and I have talked about this in previous years, gift cards are so valuable.
Right. And they don't have to be big. I
They don't have to
mean,
be big.
a $10 gift card is exactly. I mean, that's the example I used last year too, about the kids that can't go, or they
Exactly.
do go and they have like a granola bar in their pocket because that's what their lunch looks like. And for everyone who's out there thinking, well, not everybody's kids go out for lunch and not everybody's kids do this, and not everybody, and that's true. My kids did not. My kids took bagged lunches, absolutely they did, and my grandchildren take bagged lunches. So it's not that it's expected that that would happen. But as you say, things have changed so much, and what used to be considered the norm is no
Hmm.
longer. And the peer pressure, I mean, just social media alone has changed
Everything.
the dynamics. They've changed the whole,
Yeah.
just looking at everything in life. Like you can't, I mean, really, Kathy, if I think back, if we had social media when I was in school,
Mm.
yeah, no. I
You
would
know,
surely
I
would not be sitting here, I'll
I
tell you
was
that,
gonna say I
because
would probably not be either. My world would look very, very, very different.
well, yeah, I
However,
don't know that I would have survived social media in an Italian neighborhood with all those people
uh,
watching me. I'm telling you, it would not be the same. And it's
no.
just really, you have to feel, I feel for these kids. I feel for the kids. I mean, we hear about it all the time. Social media bullying. I mean, bullying in school is not bad enough. Of course, we had bullying. That's not new. I had friends that passed very young. It's not something new. It's not that people weren't picked on.
Yeah.
I remember
Yeah.
one kid that was in high school that was always picked on. He was just a little, very quite diminutive character. But the boys would be like always putting him in lockers and, like closing him into a locker, and he'd have to wait
Yeah.
until somebody came and let him out. I mean, that's bullying. That's not funny. I mean, we might have thought it was funny back then, but it really, when you look back, no, maybe that wasn't so funny.
It wasn't funny at all.
It wasn't fun.
As being
But
as being the victim of the lockers when I was a young girl, let me tell you, it's not fun to be jammed in a locker or to be dragged in a garbage can or to have any of those. I had all of that stuff when I was growing up, so I recognize it. But besides all of that part of it, I think that the things that are challenging for me are not the external things even. Like we can be supported around the bullying in school. The counselors now are so fantastic. There's really good opportunities for you to move forward, which we didn't have when we were younger. But having said that, it isn't about that. It's when you look in the mirror and you say to yourself, I'm not enough. Why, like even now, all these years later, this sounds very, very crazy, but at Christmas time, there's always a piece of sadness for me. There's always a piece of sadness for me because even though I can buy my own stuff, I have a family, I'm all of that. My family are not gift givers. Whenever when I think about people getting presents and things like that, I think about what I felt like as a little kid. And there's nothing, it'll come in a movie. It'll come in when we have this conversation, it comes in really strange places all these years later, thinking of me as that little person. And I often at Christmas time have to hold that little person in my spirit and just say everything's going to be okay. It's okay. You're not, you're an adult now. It's okay now, right? So, but I remember as a teenager, feeling, I wrote about it recently in the magazine, and it was kind of a trite example. It was about, sitting at the bus with my mother one year at Christmas time. And I was an adult. I was in my early 20s. I had a job. In fact, I had two, but I didn't quite make enough money. I was making at that time like $1.65 an hour, 3.25 an hour, some ridiculous amount of money. And I didn't have the money to buy presents. And it was a big deal for me to buy presents for other people, a really big deal, because I knew what it was like not to have presents, right? Or to have stuff come from the Sally Ann. So I wanted to buy my mother a present. I wanted to buy my sisters presents. I wanted to do all of these things. And I remember it was like the coldest day of the year. I'm sitting outside of the bus station with my mother. I don't have the change to get on the bus, and I have to borrow from my mom, who we're used to being poor together, so it was no big deal for her to give me coins. But that feeling of sitting at the bus stop, feeling so hopeless. I was in my 20s, right? And I wasn't officially poor at that time. I was just remembering that isolated, lonely feeling because I didn't quite make enough to be able to buy something for my mother or for somebody else. I was just keeping the roof over my head. Now, as silly as that sounds, and you can hear it in my voice, I get very emotional about it. I know that right now there are people that are in their 20s, 25, 30-year-olds that have got their first job, that are trying to move out of their house or their parents' house, that, or are trying to make it with their single mom with a kid, or the dad that's working all the time and he can't be home with the kids. And it feels so isolating. And I really feel it's important that people understand when they listen to this show and when they participate in the Christmas Angels and when they think about all of the services that are around at Christmas, that they don't know the impact that they have on people. The impact is unbelievable. And all these years later, for me, Christmas is still about paying it forward. It's pride. So that gift card for a $10 Subway sandwich is pride. It equates to you matter. And I think for Christmas, it's the most important thing that we do is help people feel like they matter.
No, absolutely. The other side of that is too, for all those people, I'm just going to give you a break because you're getting very emotional and you're
I'm
going to
getting
cause
very
me to get
emotional, and I
emotional.
can't believe
And
I'm
then
triggered, by the way. I
I know, and
usually
the
have
two of
other
us are
people
going to
cry
be
on my
sitting
show. I'm
here.
not usually the ones who cry. I have
Well,
other
we're going to
people cry.
both be crying, and then the show is just going to be dead air with two people sobbing. It's just going to be
Thank
like
you for
really, really
listening. If
sad.
you pulled over, like, grab a tissue. I've got mine.
I think too, if you are on the receiving end
Yes.
of angels, again, there's no shame in reaching out for sure, letting the people that you work with
Yes.
know that you can use the
Please
help
reach
for
out.
sure. That's, really not it. But even with that, I grew up, I got a job, I got married, I had kids in that order, by the way, thankfully, because I wouldn't have lived if I tried in another order. But if I did, get married and have kids, and not that we were, upper middle, we were probably middle class when we had kids, right from the start. And right from the start, my kids never ever had, and they can tell you this
Mm.
from mom and dad, they never got tons of stuff. From Santa Claus, they never got a ton of, they got one Santa Claus gift,
Yep.
and then they got something from me, or something from us at the time, two
Yep.
of us. So it would be
Yep.
something else because, first of all, they were the first grandchildren. So they got from the aunts, the uncles, the grandparents, right on and on. So it wasn't about that.
Mhm.
But for me, people would say to me, "Oh, is that all you got your kids from Santa?" And I said,
Lots.
one day, and it would be whatever, the Care Bear one year, the Popple one year. I'm trying to remember all the Cabbage Patch. My mother
Cabbage
waited
Patch.
four and a
Yes.
half hours in line waiting to get
Even
Cabbage Patch dolls.
those
I
little
mean,
tie
God
dolls
bless
and
her.
things. Yeah.
She,
Yeah.
I wouldn't have done it, but she has done it.
Yeah.
We had one year here, two little kids, two little girls that all they asked for was a Hatchimal. You couldn't mortgage your house for a Hatchimal in this town. You couldn't get them. And, thank goodness for the kindness of, again, people who work in certain stores. If you call and beg and plead, they will set them aside when the shipment comes in. Two for these two little children. That's all they're asking for. Oh my goodness.
Oh,
And they did it. But for me, my explanation on that was always, yeah, things are fine now. But what if something was to happen to my husband, as with my mother when my dad died? I mean,
yeah,
four kids under 11. She was 30 years old, had four children, no education, no job,
yeah,
no money,
yeah,
didn't speak the language, could hardly read. Um, if that situation ever came about in my life, some disaster, which thankfully never happened, but
yeah.
if the disaster, because that's how you prepare. And Kathy, that's how we prepare because that's the life we had.
That's right.
My feeling was if some disaster befell me,
Yeah,
I would manage to have one gift from Santa, which is all they would expect. One gift, whether it came from the toy drive, whether it came from the church, whether it came from somewhere. I would figure out a way, I would manage one present. But they wouldn't feel left out because Santa's always only given them one present. So it's not a big deal. Like it's not like they had to have
exactly.
50 presents under the tree because they didn't know that life. They didn't have that life of Santa. Santa's a great, wonderful person, benevolent and year round, because I'm sure Santa doesn't only work one day a year.
Absolutely.
But I mean, managing elves has got to be something. I know I manage a volunteer center, and that's something. So I can't imagine, a whole organization distribution center full of elves. I mean, sometimes you're stepping right over them. You don't even see them, but at least here I can see my team. So one thing would always be acceptable for my children.
Yeah,
One thing would always be acceptable because that was the norm. So I think we have, just as things changed, and many, many people who are doing very, very well also came from the same background you and I, Kathy. They
absolutely.
did. And they didn't want their kids to have that feeling.
That's right.
So a lot of these kids are growing up with more and more and more. And there's nothing wrong with that. I think the more you do for your kids,
Absolutely.
you know, fill your
But there's
boots.
no shame. There's no shame in having less. I can tell you that I'm very proud of my granddaughter, of my son and his wife, and my grandchildren. I have four grandchildren, all at 5 years old or under, and I can tell you that I'm really, really proud, really, really proud of my son's family because Sam, his wife, is very, very secure in the fact that she doesn't want all the material stuff to be she doesn't want material possessions to become a child's identity, and she's very clear about we have rules about how Christmas looks in our home, which are similar to what you said. They're like, that's that one Christmas present that comes from Santa, because what if somewhere down the line, right? And also, I think there's something to be said about, we give our kids what we can. What they really want more than anything else is maybe a tiny gift, but the biggest gift that they can have is your time. They want to be with you. They want to enjoy the season and create memories together. So there's no shame in having less ever, right? It's about just it's about that segment of the population as well that feels quite often that they don't matter at all, that we're trying to remind them that they are important people. They are loved by community.
And we do try to do like I am in no way trying to say that a lot is bad.
No, of
You
course
have
not.
to think
Not at
about the
all.
fact
Not at
that
all.
these families have nothing year round. They are struggling year round. So, you know what? If we can give them the most fantastic Christmas of their lives,
Yes,
a memory, it's the memory.
correct.
It's like these kids who on their wish list have to ask for winter boots
Yeah,
because let's face it, our kids would never ask for winter boots for
they
Christmas
wouldn't.
because first snowfall, if the boots didn't fit, off we go, whether it's to Walmart or the Bay or wherever. They have winter boots. I mean, I lived in Prince George and Chetwynd. I'm telling you, winter boots were a necessity. That didn't mean it was available to everyone. The first day of school, my middle daughter had her boots stolen.
Oh my
Like the
gosh.
school phoned me and said, "You got to come pick her up. Her boots are gone." And I'm like, "What?" And some other child had seen the opportunity to take, boots fit. My feet are cold. Off they go. She was in grade 2 or 3.
Oh
Can't
my.
even remember. But and how that wounded me. Not that I wasn't even angry. I was like, oh my God, who sent their kid to school without boots today? It's like 30 below.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
not like there was another pair of boots and the kids took the wrong boots. There wasn't another pair of boots. And there's my little girl, like, my boots are gone, my boots are gone. She can't walk home.
I'm going to shift gears just for a half a moment because you've inspired another part of the conversation that I want to bring to do because this year, according to the Farmer's Almanac, which I'm sorry, I'm a Farmer's Almanac person. I can't believe I'm saying that, but I am. Um, it's going to be one of the coldest winters that we've seen. And so in a moment, I want to talk to us about or talk with our audience about the coat campaign you have coming up as well for Christmas. For people. It's the first day with my new mouth, and I'm not sure whether or not it's quite, working in chime, but that's a good thing for a moment. So if you just tuned in, thanks again for tuning in to Act 3 on CHLY 101.7 FM. You're listening to Act 3, and I'm really loving this show so much because I get to talk with all kinds of incredible people and about all kinds of things that are really important, not only in my life, but to the community. And so we've had the privilege over this last year of really meeting some awesome, awesome guests. My favorite guests are always around Christmas time. Rita Innamorati. I love saying her name. I say it everywhere whenever I'm out. It's that she's got this great name, but what she does in our community is really great. So I'd like you to go get a piece of paper and a pen so that coming up towards near the end of the hour here, there will be some information on how you could be a Christmas angel, how you can reach Rita, and how you can support our community if you choose to do so in this way. If you have started the show and you missed a chunk, well, I invite you to go to our YouTube channel and you will find this recording along with many, many others of the shows that we have done. You'll also find us on iHeartRadio, Spotify, and on Shaw Cable 4. Rita is now one of our team members, and I'm so glad that she's part of our team over at Rogers for Act 3 there. We're going to be filming this week, and so there's a brand new episode going to drop, and you can meet Rita certainly by paying attention to that program because she's just an amazing addition to our team. I am very, very honored to be with you and look forward to an upcoming wonderful year. This Christmas means a lot, not just for myself and for Rita and for our community, but we hope for all of you. And if there's anything that we can do to make your Christmas a little bit better, we'd sure appreciate it if you would reach out. You can find me at act3mediaproductions at gmail.com. That's act3mediaproductions at gmail.com. If you would like to be on the show, we're always welcoming guests. So by all means, reach out to me. I'm happy to be with you. Again, I thank you for tuning in to Act 3 every week at 1 o'clock on CHLY 101.7 FM. Let's get back to Rita. Rita, I tell people I love you all the time, and it's because I think that what you have done in this community in the way of putting this program together has been single-handed. I know that it's taken a lot of people on the team. I know that every family or every angel part of me is part of the team. I know that Volunteer Nanaimo is very integral in all of this. I know all of that, but it has really been you that's been the driving force for all of this. And our community is just simply a better place because you're in it. And I am honored to call you my friend. Rita, what do we do for these cold people right now? I know there's something happening for the youth that the Youth Network is doing. We should really talk about the Youth Network to begin with, and then let's talk about the coats. How's that?
Perfect. Well, I mean, that one thing leads into another.
One thing leads to another.
We have the most amazing group of youth. Youth Network has been around since around 2000, 2001. I believe that's when we started working with youth. And the reason that that started is because to actually volunteer without your parents, which young people like to do,
They do.
they can't actually volunteer on their own until they're 16 or older. And even then, some agencies just don't want that responsibility, which you can understand. I
Totally.
mean, it's a huge liability if there's a problem. However, having said that, we now have youth network. So that started as a summer job program, and we would hire a youth being someone who was over the age of majority at the time, and they would work with young people and take them out to do volunteer opportunities. Well, that grew and grew and grew until 2015. We decided it was really a challenge to have all these kids, young people, I shouldn't say kids, all these wonderful young people working all summer. I mean, they're picking fruit, they're picking weeds, they're cleaning, they're helping at events, helping at the Viax, helping at the silly boats, helping at whatever they're doing. And then September would come around, school back in school, the program is over. Next June comes around, program starts up again. Now we got to try to re-engage all these kids and try to find new
Yeah.
kids.
Yeah.
So what we decided in 2015 is we were going to try to run it year round, not to the same extent because youth are in school, but to try to have at least one volunteer event a month, possibly two, and have somebody that we could pay to take care of that, because it really is a job. I mean, first of all, just having to understand social media and having, sending out the emails and following up with the youth and meeting with the youth and getting the parents to sign off. So our youth, because the government came up with now a new definition of youth in Canada. I can't remember how many years ago this was. I'm thinking at least 6, 7 years. I can't remember. But at some point, they determined anyone under 30 was considered youth, probably
Oh,
because people under 30 were still living at home. But that's a
possibly. Yeah.
completely different story. And they're
Yeah.
doing that because we can't control the price of housing.
Yeah.
So now youth is up to 29. So we sort of had two programs for a while, and one program was 11 to 17. The second program was 15 to 29. The 15 to 29 program was actually sponsored by the federal government for quite a few years. It was a year-round program. This group did the most amazing work. We actually had them working together even with our younger group, because we believed that the mentorship part of that program was brilliant. A lot of young people, and I'm talking younger people, may not have thought it was really cool to volunteer. It's not cool to do those things because, cool kids don't necessarily do that. But if they see 17, 18, 19, 20-year-olds that they can look up to and say, wow, they're volunteering, suddenly it's a cool thing. Not only
Absolutely.
do you get the opportunity to hang out with older kids, but you get to do something cool. I'm a firm believer, and I have volunteered since I was a child, sometimes being voluntold, sometimes volunteering, but it since I was a kid.
You and
My
me both.
children have volunteered
Yep.
since they could walk, whether it
Yep.
meant being with me at an event, doing whatever, carrying the baby Jesus in the play, whatever it was. Um, you know, we've always been a volunteer group. My kids, as soon as they were old enough, volunteered at the SPCA. They did different things, but they enjoyed doing it. I think there's so many reasons that we want to get them volunteering young, because if we make it a really good experience, there
Hmm.
will come a time in their lives they have to concentrate on careers, they have to concentrate on family. But in the backs of their minds, they will always have, just as you always have those trauma-based memories, you will also have wonderful memories of meeting people,
Absolutely.
of going to the senior home and singing with the seniors. And our
Mm.
youth are going again this weekend. I think one of our team leaders, he plays the guitar. He teaches guitar for free to youth on Tuesday afternoons, but they go out and they play the guitar and they sing. And when you think about how many of our seniors, their families are gone, or it's such a transient society, their kids live on the other side of the world, the other side of the country, and they don't have that. And contrary to popular belief, a lot of seniors like to be around children. I mean, I know we all have that image of grumpy older people who don't like noise and they don't like, but that's not true.
It's not
That's not
true. I
true. They
agree.
like to have young people around. It brings them joy, it brings them energy,
Yeah.
brings energy in. Let's face it, if they didn't want to be around kids, they'd stay in their rooms. They wouldn't be in the main hall singing with the kids and listening to their
Yeah.
dad jokes and eating their cookies, or choking on their candy canes or whatever it is that they're doing.
Yeah,
If they didn't want to be a part of that, that kind of joy that those kids bring, they wouldn't be there. So don't believe that seniors don't like kids around, because a lot of
agreed.
them do.
A
So
thousand percent.
our youth are doing that. They, during COVID, they never stopped. They were painting boards and taking them out to the senior places where they could only look out the windows and see sidewalk chalk designs. And I mean, the kids, in the summer, they're picking fruit. Last summer they're weeding. This past year they planted and are maintaining a native plant garden at Beaufort Park, thanks to a grant that they got from the city. They organized the screening of the Gab Mate trauma film,
Mm,
at and organized that, again, working with the city around getting the convention center. And it was a sold out event. Nobody made any money on it. I want you to know we would have loved to make money on it, but we broke even because it was more important to get the message out than to make
yes,
money on it. Maybe
yes,
that's one of the
absolutely.
problems of Volunteer Nanaimo, is we think less about making money and more about serving. And maybe we should start getting a little bit more business-like. I know my board sure feels that way. I have to start buying into that somehow. I can't, because I just think, like, they come to me and they say, "Hey, we want to do this." And I'm like, "Wow, that's a great idea. Let's do it. Let's figure out how to get some money and let's do it." Not how are we going to make money off of it. Let's figure out how we can do this, because it's going to be better for the kids.
Absolutely.
So they have
And
come
it's
up.
about the experiences too for them more than anything, as
It
you know,
is.
what
And the
we put in
things that they
before.
put
Yeah.
together and the
Yeah.
things that we try to find and reaching out again. One of the things they wanted to do was one of the things that the kids expressed in their group. I don't know why I keep saying kids. I apologize, young people. Please don't hold this against me. Um, I they were worried about being out because of all the horror stories they're hearing about people being
Yeah.
attacked and whatever's happening. And we organized self-defense. Then they talked about when we organized a self-defense class and we sent a bunch of youth to do self-defense. Did we make any money off that? No. Did we charge the youth? No.
No.
This is not it wasn't about that. So then they wanted to do first aid, and we looked into that, and it was just outside of our price range. But when you reach out, you find somebody, and my terrific friend, Alex Matz, who's a paramedic and has a business that teaches first aid, actually did that for us for free. He took a group of our youth, we got a free empty space, and he did it, and they all ended up with certificates. And thank you,
Good
Alex.
job.
I'd love to
Good
do that
job,
again with you.
Alex.
I know you're very, very busy, but if you're listening to this, or if your wife, Sarah, is listening to this and she wants to put that bug in your ear,
See,
we would love to do that class again.
this is
And
why we love Rita. Rita doesn't take no for an answer. Rita's,
no, well, I would take no, except that
I
I just
know,
turn it off.
what I mean is she's there's never an opportunity where there isn't a fabulous ask in there somewhere. It's one of the
Somewhere,
things I love
but we
about you.
can't afford it. We can't afford it, but we want to
That's
do
right.
it.
But we want to
Anyway,
do it.
we had this fantastic program. I had the most amazing young people working on the program,
Yeah.
and they decided to cut the funding on that program.
Oh no.
So we are currently struggling because our youth coordinators are not seniors, are not collecting pensions, and do need to pay rent and buy gas and turn on lights and buy groceries and do all the things that young people do. So we need to raise a lot of money.
Yeah.
For me, it would be considered a lot of money, what I think is a lot of money, but we do need to raise some money to keep that program alive. I don't think there is anything more important than keeping, giving our youth something. Volunteering, job skills, they're learning job skills. They did resume writing classes. They go to Food Safe and learn how to cook. I mean, it's just endless. It's endless, all the opportunities that they have with this program. And as I said, we beg, borrow, steal to get these classes. Unfortunately, the team that runs this class need to be paid. So if you want to find out a little bit more about that,
Again,
just give
reach
us a
out.
call, contact us. However, one of their big Christmas programs every year that they came up with themselves was called Coats for Christmas. So I'm going to bring up Coats for Christmas. Coats for Christmas, they get together at Maffeo Sutton Park. They meet up, they put up a little tree. I believe they get donated. I believe this year Thrifties is sponsoring Coats for Christmas
Oh, thank you,
food and
Thrifties.
drink. I believe that's what the little bird told me. I don't know if we're supposed to know that, but they are. Thank you, Thrifties. Gave them some money for hot chocolate and cookies and stuff that they'll have out there, and they are collecting coats, hats, warm socks, warm gloves. If you're cleaning out your closet and maybe you don't know it yet, but you're getting a really nice new coat, so maybe give yours up, or maybe
Mhm.
hide your wife, throw your wife or husband's jacket in the bag because you know that they're getting a new one. They are going to be down at Maffeo Sutton Park this weekend, coming up, the 13th and 14th, Maffeo Sutton Park, and they are gathering. Of course, they'll take donations as well, and any donations will be used to purchase just those things. Yeah, last year they collected, I believe, over 1,100
That's amazing.
coats and scarves and
Amazing.
boots, scarves, hats, toques.
Oh, they take boots as well.
Yes, yes,
Okay, good to
yeah.
know.
So, I mean, these are things, especially, and then of course the money, all of these items go back into trying to keep or help keep the homeless warm and people that are going into different places like that. I believe the partnership is Salvation Army,
Yeah.
who I've had the great pleasure of meeting some of those people this past couple of weeks. And just amazing how even in the short time we've met, like in 2 weeks, we've already been going back and forth with different things and helping each other. And it's just so amazing, like being in this community for this long. And honestly, I hate to say this, but um, I've worked with Dawn Anderson for years. I know she's no longer with Salvation Army, actually, she's retired, but she was really the only person from there that I knew. And now I've met other people, and I mean, she was amazing. I loved working with her. The new people are also amazing. I love working with them, as well as all the other different organizations in town. But this is huge. The kids love doing it. Last year, probably the worst weekend of the entire year. Their canopy got blown over. It
Oh
was
no. Oh no.
sleeting, windy,
Oh,
and those kids showed up the next day. Nobody's business. They were back out there in the cold. And
we have
a
some
couple of
really
things. One
resilient
is,
Ruth youth. Yeah.
perseverance, get out there, keep doing it, because someone is going to show up with one coat, but they ended up with lots and lots and lots. The second thing is, being out there really gives a person, whether it's us, whether it's our youth, you go out there and spend half an hour with them when it's windy and rainy and cold, and appreciate what people are living like day
Day
after
in
day.
and
You
day
know
out.
what? The end of the day, you're going to go home, jump in a hot shower, and think, oh, wow,
These people are
all
not.
those people are not doing
They're
that.
not.
A lot of people that don't have a hot shower to jump into, a hot bath, a warm, dry pair of socks. So, if somebody gets 3 pairs of socks and 2 pairs are in a plastic bag in their backpack or something, and their feet get cold and wet, nothing is worse. I don't think anything is worse than cold, wet feet in the wintertime. Like,
Cold, wet feet in the wintertime.
is the worst. In the
It is.
summer, it's pleasant, but in the
Winter, it
winter,
is
it
not.
is the worst. If I drop a glove in the snow or in the wet slush, I can't put that thing back on. Like, it is cold. I can't imagine that that is my only option for an entire
Absolutely.
day.
Absolutely.
And limited spaces with night spaces, right?
Yeah.
Between St. Peter's, the Unitarian, wherever people are going at night, wherever are unhoused or going at night. And I know you do a lot of work with this demographic, Kathy. There's like 60 spaces for three times that
100.
many people.
Yeah. There's a lot of people. There's a lot of
So, and yes, I'm the first one to say yes. Some people choose not to go there. Yes, some people choose to make their own way. I get that. You have to respect that choice. There's nothing we can do about that. But for the ones that do want a space and there isn't a space, imagine what that feels like, hovering under a bridge or a doorway, just trying to keep the rain off, just trying to keep the snow off. Um,
Just trying to stay dry. And have had the good fortune of working with a lot of unhoused people, and it has been one of the most beautiful experiences that I've ever had in my life because the lion's share of people that are on the street are generous and kind people that are just hard on their luck. Yes, there's a population of that are going through a very different experience. However, the lion's share of people are trying to be good people and are hard on their luck. Our show is nearing the end, which really
no, it's
blows,
not.
I know it blows my
We
mind.
have not been on for an
We
hour.
have almost been on for an hour already, if you can believe it. I know it's really, really hard that our time goes so fast because I always love talking to you. If you have just tuned in, you are right at the end of Act 3 on CHL 101.7 FM. I want you to know Rita is an angel in herself. And how do people find you? I told them to go get a piece of paper and a pen before. How do people contribute to Christmas Angels and the and all of it? How do they like all of it? Their coats, their everything. How do they do it?
Well, the easiest way, and I'll tell you it's the easiest way, is to email me.
Okay.
So the email address is that's as in volunteer, vnanaimo@gmail.com. Can you believe that was even available?
Is that
vnanaimo@gmail.com. I didn't have to
vnanaimo
add
at
anything.
gmail.com was meant to be, is what it
Was
was.
meant to be.
Was
If
meant to
you
be.
write to me about any the youth program, if you want to know about the youth program, how to support it, how to donate to that, how to be involved in that, or for more information about Coats for Christmas, send it to that email and I will forward it to the youth who will be in touch with you. I don't want to inundate this with like 4 or 5 different
No,
email
no, no, no. Make it
addresses or
easy.
different things.
Yeah.
One email. The nice thing about emailing me is that when I'm at the office at 5 o'clock in the morning, I can answer your email. And at 11 o'clock at night, I can answer your email. If you phone and leave a phone number, I have to call you during the day, and daytime is not always great for me. But please do, if it's the only way, please call the office. Please leave a message with one of my wonderful volunteer team with your phone number, and we will get back to you. If you tell me or you tell them in your message, you can only be reached between this time and this time, that's fine. We will make it happen. But generally, emailing me is the easiest for me and the fastest and the most convenient because I can email you while you're sleeping and it'll be the first thing you wake up to in the morning.
And she's just like Santa. She's just like Santa herself. She is the Santa embodied in all things fabulous in Nanaimo. Thank you so much, Rita Innamorati, for being on Act 3 today. I am absolutely gobsmacked at everything that you do in community. And thank you for everything that you do in our community. And again, if you have missed any part of this, check us out on our YouTube channel. In the meantime, I hope you have a very, very special day. I look forward to seeing you next week on Act 3.